The night was quiet except for the hum of the ceiling fan, and Emma thought nothing of it when Daniel's phone buzzed against the wooden nightstand. She reached absent-mindedly, planning to silence it, but her heart froze as she read the preview of the message. "I miss the way you taste. Can't wait until tomorrow." Emma whispered aloud. "What the hell is this?" Her hands trembled as if the letters themselves burned her skin. Daniel stirred beside her, unaware of the storm building in her chest. For a moment she thought of dropping the phone, of pretending she hadn't seen it, but a cold ache spread across her ribs as denial cracked apart. The silence grew unbearable, heavier than the room itself. Emma's mind flashed through the countless nights he had said he was working late, every excuse about missed dinners, every unexplained call that ended abruptly. She pressed her lips together, the air thick and choking, and whispered again, "How long has this been going on?" Her eyes burned, but tears refused to fall. All at once, the life she had trusted felt like a lie wrapped in her bed. The buzzing silence mocked her, and her heartbeat sounded like a hammer pounding truth into her skull. Nothing would ever be the same. Emma sat in silence, staring at the shadows that moved across the ceiling, her chest heavy with unspoken words. The world outside her window seemed so calm, yet her body pulsed with chaos. She whispered Daniel's name softly, testing if his stillness was real. He groaned faintly, then turned away, his back now a cold wall between them. Her mind replayed every excuse, every late night, and each memory suddenly felt poisoned. Emma said, "I believed you when you said you were working late, and I defended you when my sister questioned it." The echo of her own words pierced deeper than Daniel's silence. She thought of the dinners gone cold, the nights alone, and the countless moments she brushed aside her doubts for love's sake. Now that faith mocked her. Her body shook, not from tears but from the truth that demanded to be faced. Trust, once her safe place, felt like broken glass under bare feet. The quiet bedroom felt endless, suffocating her in betrayal's cruel embrace. Emma's mind refused to rest, memories resurfacing with jagged edges. She thought of the night Daniel said, "I'll be back late, don't wait up." She had trusted him then, tucked herself into bed, and convinced herself he was exhausted from work. Now the phrase struck like a blade, sharp and merciless. Emma pressed the phone against her chest, trying to calm the frantic pounding beneath her ribs. The soft glow of the lamp felt like an interrogation light, exposing every hidden truth. She muttered, "How could I have been so blind?" Her body leaned forward, shoulders heavy with realization. Each remembered laugh, each kiss on the cheek, twisted into cruel reminders of what she had believed. The silence between them was no longer peaceful. It screamed of secrets, heavy and undeniable. The room itself felt like a stranger, no longer hers, no longer safe. Daniel stirred suddenly, his voice slurred from sleep. "Why are you still awake?" Emma stiffened, clutching the phone tighter, hiding it beneath the blanket. His eyes opened lazily, confusion flickering for a second before closing again. Emma whispered, "Just couldn't sleep." The words left her lips bitter, each syllable heavy with unspoken accusation. She wanted to scream, to thrust the phone in his face, but fear of confirmation weighed her down. She stared at the outline of his body, the same body she once trusted to protect her, now the shape of betrayal itself. Daniel shifted back into sleep, his breathing steady, while Emma sat with her pulse thundering like war drums. She realized the cruelest part wasn't the text itself. It was that he could sleep so peacefully while she drowned in torment. The silence pressed harder, suffocating her as she stared into the dark. Emma whispered to herself, "Nothing will ever be the same." Her throat burned, but her tears still would not fall. The truth sat in her chest like iron, unmovable and merciless. She looked at Daniel's back, at the steady rise and fall of his breath, and felt her stomach twist. Love and betrayal warred inside her, neither giving way. She thought of every plan they had made together, vacations, a future home, maybe children one day, and each dream shattered like fragile glass. Emma pulled the blanket tighter around her, as though it could shield her from the storm tearing her apart. But nothing could soften the blow. The life she knew had collapsed silently, without warning, leaving her stranded in the wreckage. The morning sun streamed through half-drawn curtains, warm light falling on a world that now felt foreign. Emma sat at the kitchen table, staring at her untouched coffee, as steam curled and disappeared like her fading trust. She whispered, "I believed in us." Memories pulled her back to their first date, Daniel nervously smiling, fumbling with his words, and her heart racing with hope. The sweetness of that night lived inside her, a cruel reminder of what once was. She traced her finger around the rim of the mug, each circle a reflection of how her love had revolved around him, unaware of shadows creeping in. Emma told herself, there must have been signs. She wondered if her silence had been mistaken for weakness, if her trust had been too easy to betray. The clock ticked loudly, marking each second she sat frozen between past love and present pain. Emma stood before the mirror in their bedroom, eyes searching her own reflection. She remembered how Daniel used to stand behind her, resting his chin on her shoulder, whispering how beautiful she was even on tired mornings. Now the glass showed her hollow eyes, framed by sleepless shadows. She touched her face gently, wondering if she had changed, if perhaps she had become invisible to the man she trusted most. Her whisper was soft but sharp. What did I do wrong? She thought of sacrifices made, dreams deferred, and endless nights waiting up. A bitter truth seeped in. She had done everything for their love, yet it had not been enough to anchor him. The reflection seemed like a stranger's, a version of her shaped by betrayal and unanswered questions. Later that afternoon, Emma sat with her childhood friend Claire in a small cafe, steam from their cups fogging the air between them. Claire leaned forward, eyes sharp with concern. "You're quieter than usual. Something's wrong." Emma smiled faintly, but her voice betrayed her. "I don't know who he is anymore." The words hung heavy. Claire frowned, reaching across the table, fingers brushing Emma's hand, silently urging her to speak more. Emma thought of telling her about the message, but fear tightened her throat. Instead she said, "Do you think people can change overnight?" Claire shook her head gently, her tone steady. "People don't change overnight, Emma. They just stop hiding." The words struck hard, pulling Emma deeper into the ache of suspicion. That evening, Emma scrolled through old photos on her laptop, each memory like salt on fresh wounds. She saw the vacations, the birthday surprises, and the countless smiles that once made her feel safe. Her chest tightened with every image, realizing how many of those moments now carried hidden lies. Daniel walked past behind her, pausing briefly, asking casually, "What are you looking at?" Emma clicked the screen closed quickly, her tone flat, "Just old photos." He smirked faintly and walked on, leaving her frozen with suspicion. She whispered bitterly, how many of these smiles were real? The images on her screen felt like ghosts, haunting her with proof of a life that might never have truly existed. Emma sat in the backyard under the fading twilight, the cool air brushing her skin. She hugged her knees close, staring at the stars that once felt like promises between her and Daniel. She remembered the night he said, "No matter what happens, you're my forever." The memory made her shiver now, the words stripped of meaning. She whispered into the night, "Forever ended before I knew it." The ache in her chest deepened, but beneath it something stirred. An ember of strength, a voice reminding her she was still more than his betrayal. The stars blinked silently above her, indifferent but eternal, while Emma sat alone with her truth, knowing her life was now divided into before and after. The rain tapped lightly against the windows that night, and Emma sat on the couch, flipping through a book she couldn't focus on. Daniel was in the kitchen, his voice low as he spoke into his phone. She leaned closer, straining to hear. His tone was different, softer, tinged with warmth she hadn't heard in weeks. Emma's stomach twisted. She caught a faint laugh, then words carried through the silence. "I'll see you soon, don't worry." The blood in her veins turned to ice. He stepped back into the room moments later, phone tucked away, smile casual as though nothing had happened. Emma forced a smile of her own, but her heart screamed. She thought, "Who is he when I'm not watching?" The sound of his laughter replayed in her head, a sharp echo that stabbed her chest. The next morning Daniel brushed past Emma, muttering, "Running late again, don't wait for me." He kissed her cheek quickly, eyes avoiding hers, and hurried out the door. Emma stood frozen, watching the door close with a weight pressing down on her chest. She whispered, "Always late, always gone." His footsteps faded, leaving only the ticking clock on the wall. She thought of every unanswered call, every dinner left cold, every excuse that grew thinner each time he spoke it. Emma pressed her hand against her chest, her pulse uneven. She wanted to believe him, but the silence he left behind felt louder than his words ever could. Emma sat across from Claire again, the cafe quieter this time, her voice trembling as she whispered, "I heard him say he'll see someone soon." Claire's brows knitted tightly, her hand wrapping around Emma's. "Emma, you can't ignore this," she said firmly. Emma shook her head, her throat dry. "I keep hoping I'm wrong, that there's an explanation." Claire leaned closer, eyes piercing. "Sometimes hope blinds us and lies become easy to swallow." Emma felt her chest ache with the truth in her friend's words. She wanted to scream, to demand answers from Daniel, but fear of hearing the truth kept her silent. That night, Emma checked Daniel's jacket pocket while he showered. Her hands trembled as she pulled out a folded receipt from a bar across town. The date and time carved into her mind. It was the same night he had claimed to be at the office. Her chest tightened, breath coming in shallow gasps. She whispered, "You weren't where you said you were." The water stopped, footsteps echoed, and panic surged as she shoved the receipt back and forced a calm expression. Daniel stepped out moments later, towel around his neck, smiling faintly as if the world was unbroken. Emma's heart pounded, but her face remained still, a mask hiding the storm within. Later that night, Emma lay awake, listening to Daniel's steady breathing beside her. Her own eyes remained wide, unblinking. The receipt's numbers replayed in her head like a cruel chant. She thought of every little inconsistency, every hollow excuse. The picture formed slowly, piece by piece, until denial no longer had room to breathe. Emma whispered to the darkness, "I know something's wrong." Her body felt cold, though the blanket wrapped tightly around her. She turned on her side, staring at the back of the man she no longer recognized. His body was there, but his heart had drifted somewhere she couldn't reach. The silence between them screamed louder than any confession. The bar on the receipt sat at the edge of downtown, neon humming like a lie that never sleeps. Emma stood across the street, rain peppering her coat, and watched the door swallow strangers. She texted Claire, "Where are you tonight? Need you." Claire replied, "Home, long day, call tomorrow." Emma swallowed the sting and crossed with the light, telling herself she only needed the truth. Inside, wood and whiskey clung to the air, and the band tuned to a nervous heartbeat. Emma slid into a corner booth, eyes fixed on the entrance that felt like a loaded gun. The clock above the bottles ticked like footsteps getting closer. She whispered, "If he walks in, I'll know. If he doesn't, I'll still know." The door opened, and cold air knifed the room as Daniel stepped into the glow, casual, composed, and smiling at someone behind him. Emma shrank deeper into the shadowed booth, her breath shallow as Daniel scanned the room. He checked his watch, then angled toward the door again with an easy grin. A figure slipped in under a hood, shaking off rain like a secret. The hood fell back, and the room tilted. Claire lifted her hair from her face, and smiled the way she did when comforting Emma. Emma's chest locked, the air refusing to move. Claire touched Daniel's arm as if it was the most natural thing in the world. Emma heard her own voice in memory, "You can't ignore this." The words now cut like glass. She looked at her phone and saw the lie glow back at her. "Home, long day." The betrayal arrived on soft feet and sat at a table like it belonged there. Emma did not move, afraid her bones would shatter if she stood. She watched Daniel lean in, voice soft, "I think she suspects." Claire's mouth tightened, then softened into a soothing smile. Claire said, "She trusts you, just keep it quiet a little longer." The sentence slid under Emma's skin and burned. The server arrived with 2 glasses, and their hands met over the rim like a practiced ritual. Emma's fingers dug into the leather seat until pain steadied her. She had asked Claire to help her see the truth, and Claire had dimmed the lights instead. A laugh from their table rang false, bright as a siren. Emma whispered, "I see you now." The band started a slow song, and the room swayed while her world snapped into cruel focus. Emma rose, legs unsteady, but will ironed straight. She crossed the room, each step a verdict she could finally pronounce. Daniel looked up, color draining, while Claire's smile froze into porcelain. Emma said, "I texted you, and you said home." Claire blinked once, then said, "We were just talking about you." Emma set the receipt on the table like a blade. She said, "Office night, right? Same timestamp, same bar." Daniel reached for charm like a mask. "Emma, listen." She shook her head, the word no landing with quiet force. The music blurred into static as the server hovered and retreated. Emma felt the ground settle under her feet. The lie had no room left to breathe. Silence cracked, and truth spilled out, messy and bright. Emma lifted Daniel's jacket from the chair back, and the hotel keycard slid to the floor with a small, brutal sound. She stared, then placed it between the glasses. Daniel said, "It isn't what you think." Claire flinched, then steadied, voice cool, "We didn't plan to hurt you." Emma replied, "You planned enough to lie together." Her phone chimed with a bank alert, and she opened transfers labeled consulting, sent on the nights she ate alone. Claire looked away, shame fighting pride and losing. Daniel's shoulders sagged as the room stopped pretending. Emma said, "I asked you to help me see, and you both kept me blind." The last of her faith folded, neat as a receipt, and slid out of reach. The air in the bar thickened, the music now nothing but noise against the thunder of Emma's pulse. She leaned forward, eyes sharp, voice steady but trembling underneath. "You lied to me every night, Daniel." He reached for her hand, desperation cracking his charm. Emma pulled back sharply, the distance between them wider than any table. Daniel said, "It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything." Emma laughed bitterly, the sound hollow. "You don't hide mistakes, you live in them." Claire shifted uneasily, her lips parting as if to speak, but no words arrived. The betrayal pressed in like walls closing, and Emma knew silence was no longer an option. Daniel's voice rose, anger flaring beneath his shame. "You never listen, you never see me." Emma slammed her palm on the table, startling nearby patrons, her voice cutting through. "Don't blame me for your choices." Claire whispered, "Stop, both of you," eyes darting as though escape was near. Emma turned toward her, the words hot and sharp. "You, my friend, my sister in everything but blood, you chose him over me." Claire's breath hitched, guilt spreading across her face. The weight of truth cracked the mask Daniel had built, his shoulders sinking as if gravity had doubled. Emma felt the sting of betrayal burn deeper, but also the fire of strength she thought she had lost. The argument spilled louder, the bar hushed to a watchful silence. Daniel hissed, "You don't know what it's like to feel unseen." Emma shot back, "I saw you every day, you just wanted someone else." Claire tried to interrupt, her voice shaking, "It wasn't planned." Emma's laughter was bitter, sharp as broken glass. "You planned enough to share keys and lies." Daniel's face twisted, a blend of fury and defeat, as if every word stripped another layer of his control. Emma's voice dropped low, steady like a blade. "I loved you with everything I had, and you fed that love to the fire." The silence that followed was heavier than shouting, pressing into every corner of the room. Daniel rose abruptly, chair scraping against the wood, his fists clenched as if anger could shield him. Emma stood taller, unwavering, her eyes unflinching. He growled, "You're making a scene." Emma's reply was cold, steady. "Everyone here deserves to see the truth." Claire's lips trembled, her voice breaking. "Emma, please, I never wanted this." Emma shook her head slowly, her body trembling, but her voice steel. "You wanted him, and you got him." The truth settled like ash in the air, visible and choking. Daniel's facade cracked fully, the mask gone, leaving only a man undone by his own deception. Emma's voice lowered, heavy with finality. I gave you my heart, my trust, my life, and you traded it for lies. Daniel opened his mouth, but no words came. Only silence that proved everything. Claire covered her face, shame weighing her down. Emma turned, lifting her coat from the chair, the simple act louder than any scream. She whispered without looking back. I'm done being your secret. Every step she took toward the door was liberation carved out of pain. The bar exhaled, murmurs returning, but Emma's world had shifted beyond return. The night outside waited, dark but honest, and she stepped into it, carrying nothing but truth. Daniel sat alone in the quiet apartment, the walls closing in like judgment. The glow of the television flickered across his face, but he wasn't watching. He whispered, "She's gone." His voice cracked under the weight of it. Empty glasses scattered the coffee table, proof of restless nights. He buried his head in his hands, his breath ragged as the silence grew heavier. For the first time the mask of charm and control had fallen away. The consequences he once dismissed now stared back at him, in every corner of the room. Emma's absence was louder than her presence had ever been, filling the apartment with hollow echoes. He whispered again, softer this time, I lost her. The truth was unbearable, yet inescapable. Emma sat in her bedroom, surrounded by boxes she had pulled from closets, her life suddenly fractured into things to keep and things to abandon. She picked up a photo frame of her and Daniel smiling on a beach, her thumb brushing over the glass. Her chest tightened as she whispered, that was another lie. She placed it gently into the discard pile, a quiet act of release. The room smelled faintly of lavender candles, once meant for comfort, but now burned out. Each object she touched seemed to ask, was this ever real? She whispered, maybe I was real enough for both of us. The pain clung, but beneath it stirred something steadier, the fragile beginnings of strength. The next day, Emma met Claire's older brother Mark at a park, the winter wind brushing leaves across the path. He had always been kind, a quiet observer in her life. Mark said gently, I heard what happened. Emma's throat tightened, but she nodded, eyes fixed on the ground. He added, you deserved honesty, not betrayal. His words struck with simple truth, and for the first time she felt seen. Emma whispered, I feel like I was blind, like I gave everything and ended up empty. Mark's eyes softened. You're not empty, Emma. You're hurt, but you're still here. His steady tone wrapped around her like a blanket she hadn't known she needed. Later, Emma returned to the apartment to gather the last of her things. She paused in the doorway, the scent of Daniel's cologne lingering faintly, twisting her stomach. Daniel stood by the window, shoulders slumped, his eyes hollow. He whispered, please, Emma, don't go. She steadied her breath, her voice calm but resolute. I already left the moment you chose someone else. His lips trembled, but no excuses followed, just silence heavy with defeat. Emma bent to pick up the last box, her movements slow but sure. For once, she wasn't trembling. The weight she carried was lighter than the lies she had left behind. That night, Emma sat on a small balcony at her sister's apartment, the city lights glowing like scattered stars. She sipped tea, her hands warming slowly, her body wrapped in a blanket. Her sister moved quietly inside, giving her space. Emma whispered into the night, I'm still here. The words felt strange at first, fragile, but then they settled into her bones with quiet strength. The betrayal had scarred her, but it had not broken her. She stared out at the skyline, the hum of traffic rising and fading like a lullaby. For the first time in weeks, Emma exhaled fully, her chest lighter. Tomorrow was unknown, but it was hers again. The apartment was silent now, stripped of warmth, only echoes of betrayal lingering in the air. Daniel sat at the table staring at an untouched glass of water, his shoulders slumped. The stillness was suffocating, his once confident voice gone. He whispered, I lost everything. His mind replayed Emma's last words, the cold finality in her voice cutting deeper than any scream could. The emptiness in the room mirrored the emptiness in his chest, a hollow man facing the collapse of his own lies. Across town, Emma folded a blanket on her sister's couch, the smell of fresh coffee drifting from the kitchen. Her sister moved quietly, giving her space but offering presence. Emma held the mug with both hands, warmth seeping into her skin. She whispered, "I thought love would be enough." The words didn't carry despair, only clarity. She sipped slowly, realizing that survival had already begun, even in the smallest moments of peace. The scars were there, but so was her strength. Daniel walked through the city streets later, the crowds moving around him as if he didn't exist. His reflection in shop windows showed a man he no longer recognized. He muttered, "How did I become this?" Regret clung to him like smoke, and the weight of shame bent his stride. Every laugh from a passerby cut deeper, reminding him of what he had lost. The life he built on deception now lay in ruins, and there was no one left to blame. That evening Emma sat by the river, the sunset painting the water in streaks of orange and gold. She let the breeze brush against her face, eyes fixed on the horizon. She whispered, "I survived," and the words steadied her heartbeat. The memories of Daniel and Claire were wounds, but she realized they no longer defined her. She was more than the lies, more than the pain. She leaned back, letting the silence of the river soothe the ache. For the first time, the future felt like hers alone. As night settled, Emma walked home beneath streetlights glowing like scattered stars. She whispered into the still air, "You didn't think I'd ever find out, did you?" The words cut sharp, but her voice held strength. Her steps echoed against the pavement, steady and sure. Behind her lay betrayal and broken promises, but ahead stretched a life untouched by his lies. Her story would carry scars, but also resilience. With each step, Emma reclaimed herself. The night was dark, but it was honest, and that honesty was enough.